And I love a third and the final in the series and all bets are off kind of a situation. So this story, nobody cares, nobody cares, nobody cares. Why are you giving so much background information? Was or is, he's missing, we don't know that he's dead, he's missing, who were sisters since birth. Stop, just stop talking. And it kind of reminds me of J.T. Ellison's Every Last Lie, Her Last Lie, She Tells Lies. Rats. Hi everybody, it's Audrey and welcome back to Chapter and Converse. Today's video is going to be about the books that are coming out in August that I have on my radar, that I've already pre-ordered, that I have some curiosity about, and I thought, of course, let's just talk about them. So I don't know if it's because like a whole bunch of books got pushed into this year or there just happened to be a whole bunch of great books coming out this year, but every month I'm like, oh man, my pre-order list is getting huge, my wanna read list is getting huge, my shopping carts are getting full, and I'm just gobbling up so many 2021 releases, and for the most part have been loving everything that I've picked up. So I don't know a lot about most of these books, so we're going to talk about them as best we can. And I don't even know if there's like one in particular. No, there's totally one in particular that I can't wait for. And it's actually already in the mail. So let's just get into it. So the first book I want to talk about, I actually have an ARC of, and it's We Are the Brennans by Tracy Lang. And Celadon Books sent me this ahead of time, obviously. And I am in the midst of reading it, as you can see. And so far, I am loving this book. So this is a debut, which I think I just said, and it's about this woman named Sunday, and she lives in LA, and in the opening pages of the book, she is drunk in her car driving home and gets in a horrible accident. And she is from New York, and her older brother comes out to LA to get her in the hospital and to bring her home. And 5 years ago, Sunday left New York, left her family, just sort of upped and basically cut herself out of all of their lives. And now she's back. So this is about the Brennan family. They own a pub in a suburb of New York. And it is about the family drama. It is about the relationships between the siblings. It is some secrets. Haven't gotten to all of them yet. And it's all about the family dynamic. So we don't quite know why Sunday left 5 years ago, and she is coming back into a whole bunch of stuff. And I'm loving it. I have twice already done like the wipe away a little bit of a tear. Like I said, this is set in the suburbs of New York, which is where I grew up. So I personally just love anything that is set, you guys know, in Boston where I used to live, or where I grew up, or in New York. It's a different kind of like connection and sentimentality for me. But I'm loving it so far. So this book comes out on August 3rd. So I will update my Goodreads and post review and do all that good stuff ahead of time. But long story short, you guys, I'm really enjoying it so far. And it's everything but a thriller, but I am not a one-trick pony. So I do love things that do not involve murder. At least not yet. I don't think there's murder in this. So a book that does involve murder is As Good as Dead by Holly Jackson. And this is the third and final book in a Good Girl's Guide to Murder trilogy. And this actually comes out in the UK on August 5th. I got the email, my book is shipped. I am so excited. It comes out in the US at the end of September. And when I first read Good Girl's Guide to Murder, so this is a girl in high school is what it starts. She's a senior in high school, and her senior project, she winds up investigating a murder that happened in her hometown about 5 years earlier. And her best friend's older sister's friend was accused of killing his girlfriend. And she looks into it because it was one of these cases that was never quite solved and never quite set right. And I just devoured it. And in book number 2, we continue to follow the story. Book number 2 has a podcast element to it, has another mystery in it, and then we shall see what happens in book number 3. But when the original book came out in the US, I didn't realize it was a UK release earlier. So I read Good Girl's Guide to Murder when it came out here, found out book number 2 had already been released in the UK, so I wound up getting the UK version of book number 2. And because I am psychotic, I am getting book number 3 as fast as humanly possible. So the only differences in the books is that the UK versions are set in the UK and the US versions have been Americanized and they're set in Connecticut. And there's some slight differences just logistically when it comes to how you apply to colleges, and there's certain holidays and events that are important in the book, so they have to be changed for the US and the UK, but the story is the same, characters is the same, mystery is the same. So another long story short, if you just can't wait like me, you can get it in the UK from Book Depository, and if you are not a crazy person, you can wait for the US edition to come out here at the end of September. So next up is A Slow Fire Burning by Paula Hawkins, and this is one of those books that I feel like every year Paula Hawkins has had like a TBD book to come out, and finally it's here. And I kind of have mixed feelings about it, but I'm super curious about it. So I loved Girl on the Train. I read it shortly after it first came out. I totally loved it. I thought it was great. I thought it was well done. I was totally sucked into the entire story and the mystery and the writing and everything. And then I read her second book, Into the Water, and I didn't love it at all. And now we have book number 3. So in this one, we have a young man is found gruesomely murdered in London on a houseboat. And there are 3 women who end up getting questioned by the police. So we have Laura, who was the troubled one-night stand, last seen in the victim's home. We have Carla, his grief-stricken aunt. And then we have Miriam, the nosy neighbor. Love me a nosy neighbor. So 3 women with separate connections to the victim, and they're all, for different reasons, simmering with resentment. So police are obviously trying to find out who killed this guy. These 3 women are being questioned, and we'll see what happens. So I haven't read too much as far as like reviews go for people who have early copies of this, but I am intrigued by Paula Hawkins. So I won't necessarily be like reading it pre-order mode, but I 1000% plan to read it. The Guilt Trip by Sandy Jones is isolated thriller vibes, and it totally reminds me of J.T. Ellison's Her Dark Lies, because we have 6 friends, 3 couples, going to a destination wedding in Portugal, and they are on like a cliffside house, and it's one of these one fatal misunderstanding. So there's some sort of drama between the couples, they have complicated relationships, and then something happens, and they're staying at this gorgeous villa perched on a cliff overlooking towering waves, and just bad stuff's gonna happen. So I'm not seeing the best reviews on this book. I have The First Mistake and The Other Woman by Sandy Jones. I haven't read either of them, but I've heard great things about her as a writer. So I'm trying still to do that thing where I read the books I have by an author before I buy new books by an author that I haven't even read yet. But again, the isolated vibes of this is really fascinating to me. I just love that whole trope. And back in the day when we could travel and I had a life, I went to Portugal a couple of times. So we stayed where it's sort of like the furthest point west in Portugal. So you're like right there, and it's just stunning. So again, there's something about the location that kind of has me going. So we'll see. On the radar, on the radar. That's the whole point of this list. It's on my radar. So the third book in one of Anthony Horowitz's many series is coming out in the UK in August, in the US in October. So again, if you are cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs like I am, you might be excited about the UK release date. And this is A Line to Kill. So this is his series where he is a self-insert in the book, and it follows this detective, Daniel Hawthorne, and he wants someone to write his memoir and follow him as he does his cases in a very kind of Holmes-Watson type of way. So he hires Anthony Horowitz to do it, and Horowitz winds up getting involved in the cases. So it's like very good mystery as expected, but also a little tongue-in-cheek as he plays himself, but he does a lot of real life things as far as like his agent goes and his family goes. So I read the first one in the series, The Word is Murder. I have The Sentence is Death. I haven't read it yet. So in all fairness, I shouldn't pick up book 3 until I've read book 2, but we'll see what happens. But again, if you are into the series and you're waiting for book 3 to come out, you can grab it earlier in the UK if you want to. and I'm excited for it. I really enjoy his writing. I really love this story and this series, and I just enjoy him being in it. He's very funny. I've watched, of course, so many interviews with him and listened to so many podcasts, and he is prolific beyond imagination between books and movies and TV shows, and has just done so much. And he also just seems like a very fun, kind of cool dude to hang out with. So that is A Line to Kill. Yes, A Line to Kill. Up next is My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones. And this is being pitched as Shirley Jackson meets Friday the 13th. And it's about a girl who's obsessed with horror movies. And you guys know I'm obsessed with Riley Sager, who writes a book about a girl obsessed with movies and also does homages to horror movies. So this is kind of piquing my interest. And in this one, it says it's an homage to slasher films that also manages to defy and transcend genre. So on the surface, it's a story of a murder in small-town America. But beneath it is a beating heart, a biting critique of American colonialism, indigenous displacement, and gentrification, and a heartbreaking portrait of a broken young girl who uses horror movies to cope with the horror of her own life. So this story follows a girl named Jade, and it says she is an angry half-Indian outcast with an abusive father, an absent mother, and an entire town that wants nothing to do with her. So she lives in her own world, a world in which protection comes from an unusual source, horror movies, especially the ones where a masked killer seeks revenge on a world that has wronged them. So we have Jade narrating it, we've got some murder, and it says, even as Jade drags us into her dark fever dream, a surprising and intimate portrait emerges, a portrait of the scared and traumatized little girl beneath the Jason Voorhees mask. Angry, yes, but also a girl who easily cries, fiercely loves, and desperately wants a home. A girl whose feelings are too big for her body. So it is horror, revenge, triumph. I'm interested. I'm definitely interested. Next up is A Lesson Inventions by Victoria Lee. And it says this one is for fans of Wilder Girls and Ninth House. So I haven't read Ninth House yet. It's back there. Wilder Girls scares me a little bit because I know there's body horror in it, so I don't think I'm going to read that. So why is it on my list, you ask, right? So it says, it's a dark, twisty, atmospheric thriller about a boarding school haunted by its history of witchcraft and two girls dangerously close to digging up the past. So boarding school, witchy vibes, that's kind of why I'm totally interested. So in this one, we have a girl named Felicity, and she is back at Dalloway School. So they are in the Catskills, another place I went on vacation when I was a kid. Dirty Dancing vibes, but I'm guessing this is probably not Dirty Dancing vibes. So it's a centuries-old, ivy-covered campus, and I guess a few years ago, Felicity's girlfriend tragically died. So she went away, left for a year. She's come back to graduate, to finish her senior thesis. And of course, all she wants to do is forget about the past, but that's not gonna happen because we've got a new girl in school named Ellis who is apparently totally into figuring out the history and the mystery of the school. And then she's staying in her old dorm, and it's rumored to be haunted by the spirits of the 5 Dalloway students, girls some say were witches. The Dalloway 5 all died mysteriously, one after another, right in the grounds of their dorm. So this sounds fun. This sounds super interesting. I love me some witchy vibes. This has like back to school vibes for me, so I feel like this could be a good fall book. I feel like I need to accumulate another list of books that take place in schools, but boarding school and witchcraft, so yes, please. Next up is a book called The Reading List, and this is by Sarah Nisha Adams. And this is a book about 2 unlikely people who connect over books. So, hi, people connecting over books. Also sort of my magic words. So this book is about an unlikely friendship that forms between 2 people in a London suburb. And we have a widower, Mukesh, who is kind of mourning the loss of his wife, and he's super worried about his granddaughter, who basically just stays holed up in her room all the time. And then we have a girl named Alicia who is a bright and anxious teenager. She works at the local library for the summer. She's got some stuff from her life and her past that she's just trying to escape from. And she winds up picking up a copy of To Kill a Mockingbird at the library, and in the back of the book, there is a crumpled up piece of paper with a list of novels that she's never heard of before. So she's a little bit bored at the library. She's super intrigued by the list she finds, and she winds up starting to read the book. And then Mukesh arrives at the library trying to forge a connection with his bookworm granddaughter, and she passes on the list of books to him, hoping that it will help him forge a connection. And it says the shared books create a connection between the two lonely souls, as fiction helps them escape their grief and everyday troubles and find joy again. So this kind of feels like a Frederick Bachmanish kind of book to me, in that it almost feels like an Uwe type of a book and like an unlikely friendship. And I know I like poo-pooed Uwe because I didn't totally connect with the beginning of it, but it gives me that feeling of, again, like unlikely people connecting, and people connecting over books just obviously warms my heart because that's my dream. And that's how I connect with a lot of people. Hello. So next up is the latest book from Megan Abbott, and this one's called The Turnout. And this one takes place in a ballet studio. So I loved Dare Me, which was a very dark look at high school cheerleading, and it just was dark female friendships, and I loved it because it was so dark and messed up. And if you saw the TV show but haven't read the book is so much better. I enjoyed the TV show, but there's so much nuance that didn't make it to the screen, and also there were so many changes. The book was just, I thought, fantastic. So I don't always, like, not every Megan Abbott book appeals to me, but I'm curious about this one. And I get the sense that this is going to have sort of a similar dark inside look into ballet and to ballerinas and what they go through for their love of ballet, both physically and mentally and emotionally. So this book is about two sisters who inherited the dance studio that their mother used to run after their parents' tragic death a dozen years ago. And Dara and Marie are the daughters, and then Charlie is Dara's husband, who was also their mother's prize student back in the day. And it sounds like the three of them have sort of this Eden-like facade of this perfectly crafted ballet studio and this perfectly crafted life, and everything is wonderful. And then we have an outsider who comes in and threatens to basically take it all down. So it says there's a suspicious accident occurs just at the onset of the school's annual performance of the Nutcracker, and we have a season of competition, anxiety, and exhilaration. We've got the person who threatens to basically blow up this delicate balance of everything they've ever worked for. So it says taut and unnerving, uncanny insight, hypnotic writing, sharp, strange dissection of family ties and sexuality, femininity, and power, and a tale that is both alarming and irresistible. So it's telling me all these things that I want. And again, it's giving me, of all of her books, it's giving me like the closest vibes to Dare Me. So again, it's on the list for a reason, you guys. So I am curious to check it out. Next up is a book by Andrea Bartz, and it's called We Were Never Here. So I read The Lost Night by Andrea Bartz earlier this year, last year. I really enjoyed it. And she also wrote The Herd, which I haven't read yet, but I want to. And she does a good twisted female friendship. And this one sounds like another nice dark twisted female friendship. So we have two best friends who go on their annual backpacking trip, and this one has deadly consequences. So Emily and Kristen are in the mountains of Chile, and they are just having a great time. They're having a total blast. But on the last night of their trip, Emily goes back into their hotel room and finds blood and broken glass on the floor. And Kristen says that cute backpacker that she was flirting with attacked her, and she had to kill him in self-defense. She had no choice. But it says even more shocking, the scene is horrifyingly similar to last year's trip when another backpacker wound up dead. Emily can't believe it's happening again. Can lightning really strike twice? So back home in Wisconsin, Emily is trying to bury the trauma. She is trying to just wash away that horrible thing that happened in Chile. And it says, the more Kristen tries to keep Emily close, the more Emily questions her friend's motives. As Emily feels the walls closing in on their cover-ups, she must reckon with the truth about her closest friend. Can she outrun the secrets she shares with Kristen, or will they destroy her relationship, her freedom, and even her life? So this sounds messed up. I mean, I feel like this, you do have those friends that you would bury a body for, but maybe if you're burying multiple bodies for your friend, it's time to question the friendship. So is it self-defense? Does Kristen kind of have a problem? I'm intrigued. I very much enjoyed the writing in The Lost Night. There was definitely a villain monologue in that book that I could have done without, but other than that, I really liked it. And again, dark and twisted female friendships. I feel like this is actually turning into a theme of this list, which I didn't even realize till I sat here to talk about these books, but again, I'm in. The next one is a YA thriller, and it's called Eyes of the Forest by April Henry. And this is about a best-selling fantasy author who disappears and his #1 fan kind of being the only person who's concerned and the only person who can help find him. So R.M. Halden wrote this epic fantasy series called Swords and Shadows, and Bridget was just his biggest fan in the entire world. And she attended his one author event that he ever did and completely impressed him with her encyclopedic knowledge of the fantasy world he created. So he hires her, and she's working for him as he tries to write his final book. But then he goes missing. So it says, Bridget is the only person who seems concerned. Can she piece together his clues and save him before it's too late? So it says, this is a story that seamlessly blends suspense and fan culture for readers of Courtney Summers and Karen McManus. And it is chilling psychological twist, fast-paced mystery. I just think about, like, if my favorite author disappeared and I was the only person who could help find them. I also think about how cool it would be if one of my favorite authors ever hired me to work for them. So even though I haven't read Misery, like, it kind of gives me Misery vibes in the sense that, like, I'm your #1 fan, but also I don't know / I don't think she has anything to do with him going missing. So I don't know. But again, on the list because it's intriguing to me. Another YA thriller, also with boarding school vibes, is How We Fall Apart by Katie Zhao. And this is students at an elite prep school. And this was kind of pitched as Crazy Rich Asians meets One of Us is Lying. So again, all the things I want. And it kind of sounds like it has a little bit of like a Pretty Little Liars twist to it. So Nancy Liu is shocked when her former best friend Jamie Ruin, top ranked junior at Sinclair Prep, goes missing and then is found dead. And then Nancy's more shocked when it starts to spread that her and her closest friends are the prime suspects, thanks to someone known as the Proctor, who is anonymously incriminating them via the school's social media app. They all used to be Jamie's closest friends. She knew all their deepest, darkest secrets, and now the Proctor knows them too. So the 4 friends must figure out who the killer is, and they are super scared that the Proctor is going to expose all of their secrets and basically cost them everything. So again, back to school vibes, elite prep school. I loved Crazy Rich Asians. I'd like me some Karen McManus. I feel like I am building my fall list, like I said before, but I'm intrigued by this one too. I need to stop saying the word intrigued. I also need to stop stumbling over my words. I'm having a day, you guys. But this also appears to be #1 in a series, so I don't know what's going on here, but it sounds like the Proctor kind of has A vibes to it. So we'll see, but on my list, on the list. Okay, another book I'm super excited for is called Gone for Good, and this is by Joanna Schaffenhausen, and she wrote another series which starts with The Vanishing Season, which I read that book. I have the others in the series. I very much enjoyed it. It's about a police officer, present day, who was a child escaped a serial killer. And it's so good. But this is a whole new series she just started. So this one is also serial killer vibes, and it's about the lovelorn killer. So he murdered 7 women and, wait for it, ritually blinding them and leaving them for dead before penning them gruesome love letters in the local papers. Ugh. Then he disappeared, and after 20 years with no trace of him, many believe that he is gone for good. Except for a woman named Grace Harper. So she is a grocery store manager by day, and at night she uses her snooping skills as part of an amateur sleuth group. And she believes that the lovelorn killer is alive and still living in the neighborhood that he hunted in. And she's trying to figure out how he selected his victims and trying to figure out who the heck he is. So then we enter Detective Annalisa Vega. So she has lost someone she loved to the killer, so this is super personal for her. And then she responds to a murder scene with the worst kind of deja vu of the lovelorn killer, and she finds Grace Harper dead on the floor, surrounded by clues to the biggest murder in Chicago's history. So she has to figure out what Grace knew. She has to revisit her own past. Oh, it sounds so good. So I loved the writing and the characters in her Ellery series, the Vanishing Season series. So I'm really excited about this one. I had no idea this was coming out, and this just, in my research, let's try that again. So this was not on my radar at all. I had no idea she was doing a new series, but I found it in my research, which got me so excited. But this one comes out August 10th. I can't wait. This one sounds so messed up, but of course I love it. So that is, as usual, just a hint of the books that are coming out, and I can't wait to read so many new books. But let me know what I missed, if you're excited for any of these, anything else you want to tell me down below. And I will let you guys know when that Holly Jackson book shows up. You can bet your bottom dollar I'm gonna drop what I'm doing to read it, because I just can't wait to see what happens for Pip and her friends, and in book number 3. And Holly Jackson swears she's not going to do another book in the series, so I do feel like this is an all bets are off kind of a situation, but I'm really looking forward to it. So thank you guys for hanging out today and spending some of your time with me, and I will see you guys soon in another video. Bye everybody.